Welcome to Elevate Women in Tech podcast series. I'm Kelly Kwarteng, founder of Halzac and host of the Elevate show. Our mission is to elevate women and girls in tech from the classroom to the boardroom. Today's episode is sponsored by BCS, the Chartered Institute for IT. BCS is the professional body for the tech sector. They're on a mission to build a trusted profession that can steer technology on a safe path and take on big challenges facing the world today. They know that every time a girl drops computing at GCSE or a female worker switches her career in tech to another path, it's a major blow to the profession and our collective potential. That's why BCS is using the power of their global community to bring about real change, reaching out across diverse communities, addressing biases, celebrating role models, supporting skills development and career opportunities. When EDI in tech is the norm in every lecture theatre, dev team and board meeting, that's when we unlock a profession that takes us into a fairer digital future. If you're a student, teacher, working in tech or a leader in tech, join forces with BCS and let's make the vision a reality. To find out more about the work BCS is doing in the sector and how to join them on their mission, go to bcs.org/bring-it-on. Welcome back to another episode of Elevate Women in Tech podcast series. I'm your host, Kelly Kwarteng, the founder of Halzac, a diversity tech recruitment specialist, and also Elevate Women in Tech community. Today, I'm thrilled to have with us one of our Elevate Women in Tech community members, Natasha Barker, who is a domain architect at Matalan. Natasha, it's great to have you joining us today.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. Really excited to chat with you and reflect on my tech journey so far.
Perfect. I'm looking forward to diving into it. So I think with all of our guests, and I think it's always the best place for us to start, is let's go back to the very beginning. What was it that inspired you at that early stage to join the tech industry? And if you could tell us a little bit about your journey and what your role as a domain architect is.
Yeah, of course. So I think going back to college, I did IT as an A-level, and that's when I learned about the IT Management for Business degree, and that made me realise that I actually wanted a career in technology. The degree itself was a blend of computer science, but how to actually apply that to a business. So it gave real-world examples, and it was backed by about 60 blue-chip companies as well, who kind of helped shape the programme and mentor you throughout that. So that was kind of the turning point that made me think, yes, I definitely want a career in technology. Prior to that, I thought I actually wanted to be a teacher, and kind of all the way through school, that's what I had my sights set on. But I think reflecting back now, that's very much because at that school age, you're only really exposed to the kind of jobs that you see people do. So, things like teachers or a police officer, doctors, things like that. Whereas you don't really think about people or see people that work in, tech or finance and things like that. So to kind of have that brought to life was really crucial. And then I think as well, my dad's always worked in technology. So my dad's an IT director and, he's worked in tech since he left university, and he never pushed that onto me. But then I think as soon as I started exploring the idea of wanting a career in tech, he was a great supporter in terms of being able to talk me through what an IT department looks like and the kind of roles that exist. So that was a great help. And then when I was actually doing the interview for your Wall of Inspiration, Kelly, I kind of reflected a bit more in terms of how tech's always been, I guess, part of my life or my upbringing. So my granddad has always been a really tech savvy. So even though he passed away 15 years ago, he always had a computer and the latest gadget. So I think I've just been surrounded by technology, I guess, for all my life. And I think the thing that kind of helped me, want to get into tech and I guess not have the barriers that some people have in terms of thinking, not many women go into technology, for example, or is that something that I can do, is my mum was always really great in terms of saying you can do and be whatever you want to be. And I think that's so true. So I never felt the blockers that perhaps other people would, or those barriers, because I just thought I can do whatever I want to do. I put my mind to it. So that was always great to have that kind of support. Once I'd finished university, I went on to get a graduate role at Matalan. So I applied for several graduate roles and then landed on the one of junior infrastructure architect at Matalan. So that was a great way to kind of start my career in tech. I'm now a domain architect, so I've been, I'm really thankful to have had such a great career path at Matalan and great progression opportunities. Being a domain architect, a lot of people perhaps haven't heard of IT architecture and know what that is necessarily. So essentially, I work on large projects to do the design. So, where we're going to get data from, how the systems integrate together. And I also look at the IT strategy as well and how certain projects impact the IT or business strategy. Is it in line with that, for example? Does it meet our policies and our principles? And I'm also a keen driver behind innovation and thought leadership as well, and how we can bring that back into the business. So yeah, quite a broad role, but one that I'm really enjoying.
Wow, what a fascinating journey that you've had. And I think those early experiences from your dad and your granddad being able to inspire you with technology, and then that support from your mom, giving you that mindset of you can do whatever you want to achieve, I think are fantastic. And I think the piece that you mentioned around in your early career, wanting to be a teacher, I think I went through that experience at one point in my life, because it's true, you don't know what's out there, you just see what's around you. And I think it's great to hear that how you was able to have your eyes open to what the industry is about, and obviously the role that uni played, and then obviously getting into that grad scheme over at Matalan. I think you kind of touched on it a little bit in regards to obviously some of the challenges that women particularly can face getting into tech and getting into the industry. So on your journey into tech, were there any obstacles that you faced along your career path? And if you did face those, how did you overcome them?
So I think for me, I'm quite grateful that I've not had a lot of obstacles. I think that when I go to Women in Tech events and people talk about their experiences in their companies, for example, and the kind of obstacles that they've faced, it does make me really thankful that, the team that I've got at Matalan has always been super supportive and a great environment to work in. That's both past and present colleagues. I think one of the difficulties is that there's no shying away from you're often the only woman in the room. And even still now, that's the case. You might be the only woman in a meeting, for example, or when you go to events, you might be the only woman. And I think, several years ago, when I perhaps had a less confidence, that was something that did bother me, and I did notice it. Whereas now, I think, whilst that's still the case, if you are the only woman, it doesn't bother me in the same way. I'm secure in my role and what I do, and I'm confident that I can deliver as well as anybody else. I went to a conference, for example, last year on AI, and there were several hundred people there, but the majority were men. There was literally, a couple of women. And for a split second, I walked in and felt a little bit like an alien. But then, I know that I've got as much right to be there as everybody else. So, you need to, try and not let it bother you too much. And one of the pros from that is, the queue for the loo is a lot shorter than it would normally be. It's the men queuing up for a change, which is nice. But yeah, I think, on a more serious note, I think, like I said, the support from Matalan's always been fantastic, so I'm grateful for that. I think there are instances where I've worked on projects with, contractors or other companies, for example, and there can sometimes be that unconscious bias, of thinking that I'm perhaps more junior than what I am, or that I'm more of an admin role rather than a technical role, or that I work for the men in the room rather than vice versa. But I think the way that I've overcome that over the past couple of years is by being a little bit less modest. I think sometimes as women we can be quite modest in terms of where we are in our roles and our careers, and instead I think when we're doing those initial kickoffs and intros, I'm not saying that I share my full CV or anything like that, but just being honest about how many years experience I've got, and the fact that actually this is my role and responsibility, and these are the projects I've worked on previously, and I've worked on similar size projects previously. And I found that just setting that scene at the start really helps with, aligning expectations. And I think over the past couple of years, I've definitely seen an improvement in that unconscious bias. I think it's starting to be removed, but I think that's also because I've got more confident in myself as well. And I think sometimes you do need to see what you can do to improve the situation. Me getting more confident has meant that actually people, have more respect from me from the get-go, whereas I think if you're unconfident and come across that way, it's hard to expect people to have confidence in you if you're not confident in yourself.
Yeah, I think that's such a great tip and a really great piece of advice. And I think when you're first starting out, that confidence, it grows, like you say. And I think now you've got that confidence, you can be visible, and how you can set the scene, so to speak, and own that room and own that space, because that confidence comes with ability and you know what you're there to do. So brilliant bit of advice for any of our listeners that are in those similar situations like yourself, going into rooms where you may be the only one. If we were to flip that back now, so you know that now, if you was to look back in time and give some advice to your younger self when you were starting out, what would you say to yourself?
So I think a couple of things really. I think first of all, have more confidence and kind of shake off that imposter syndrome. And I think it would be great if we had a magic wand and could do that. But obviously it does take work. And even now when I go to, women in tech events, no matter how senior the room full of women may be, these are themes that come up all the time around confidence and imposter syndrome. So people are still experiencing it at all kinds of levels. I think one thing that really helped me was having a nurturing line manager. So when I started as a graduate, having a line manager that was willing to mentor and nurture me, proofread the emails that I wanted him to proofread, so that it kind of gave me that confidence and security in what I was doing. That was really helpful, and that's something that I definitely want to pay forward with the people that I mentor and line manage. I think the other thing is, don't be afraid to be too ambitious. And I think, my younger self was definitely a little bit frightened of that and showing that. I'm not saying that you go in day one as a graduate and say, yeah, I want to be a CIO. But I think, if you don't tell people, what you want your next step to be, or where you want to develop, or that you want to go on a particular course, for example, then it's never going to happen. If you hold your cards too close to your chest, you don't have those champions around you to kind of help make those opportunities come to fruition. So yeah, that's definitely something I would tell my younger self, and it's something that I'm more vocal about now, and I've been able to kind of progress because of that.
Love that. And I think being more vocal, being more visible, I think we talk a lot about how do people get sponsors. That's how you get people to talk your name. That's how you get people to kind of sponsor you without you even knowing. And a lot of people talk about how do I get sponsors? And I think if we can all be a little bit more visible, like you said, not coming in day one and wanting to be the CIO, but sharing your ambitions, sharing your goals, I think it can take you on a journey and get you to where you want to be in a much quicker way. So I love that bit of advice. So thanks for sharing that. Looking back at your career so far, what would you say your proudest achievement has been so far?
So I love questions like this, because I think I don't often reflect that much, to be honest, on what I am proud of. So this kind of makes me do that. And I think women in general probably don't do that either. I think we're quite bad at, pausing, reflecting and being proud of ourselves. We're perhaps too focused on that next goal and the next thing we want to move into. But for me, earlier this year, I actually got named on the Draper's 30 Under 30 list.
Oh, wow.
So for anyone that doesn't know, Draper's is a fashion magazine that each year they come out with a list of 30 people under the age of 30 that are kind of the ones to watch, if you like, the ones that are progressing well in the industry. So to get that recognition was fantastic. But I was also really proud of the fact that it was getting technology represented in the fashion world as well, and showing the importance that technology has in the fashion industry and retail and all kinds of industries, to kind of help with that. And the CEO of Matalan sent me, a wonderful email as well to congratulate me personally, say how proud she was of me and things like that. So again, that kind of helped instill, that I do need to be proud of that achievement. And off the back of that, it led to other opportunities as well. So, from getting named on that list, the CEO of Matalan then invited me to a panel discussion on International Women's Day, which was great. And then to go to the Retail Awards as well early this year. So yeah, really proud to have been named on that list, but then it's kind of snowballed into other opportunities as well.
Wow, that's really impressive. Shifting gears a little bit, because I know that you're a BCS member, and the BCS is the Chartered Institute for IT, and they are actually sponsoring this episode for us today. For those that don't know who the BCS are, can you tell us a little bit about your membership, what it means to you, and why you actually decided to join them?
Yeah, of course. So the BCS is the British Computing Society. So they're essentially the professional body for the IT world. So we probably hear about that a lot for other industries, but that's the one that kind of represents IT. So yeah, I've been a member of the BCS on and off throughout my career. So initially, I did some research into BCS as a graduate, and I wanted to try and leverage the membership to upskill. So for me, that was an opportunity to kind of step outside of the world of Matalan, for example, and see what the wider industry was doing. So I could attend webinars, lectures, and network with people, and that helped me with a lot of skills, and it helped me gain a lot of knowledge about particular topics, like cybersecurity, for example, that I perhaps wasn't getting directly from the role I was in at the time. So it was great for upskilling. More recently, I've still got BCS membership, and I've used it as an opportunity to bring thought leadership back into the business. So going to networking events or sessions to kind of learn about some of the hot topics in the industry, and then be able to play that back to the business.
So it sounds like it's just a great platform, opportunity, like you said, a network to really keep you at the forefront of tech. And we all know tech is just forever changing. The tech that you knew a year ago is old, and then it's just constantly moving forward. So it's great that it enables you to have that opportunity. Would you say that being a BCS member has impacted your career at all? And has it and if it has, what opportunities that provided from a career perspective?
Yeah, it definitely has. I mean, earlier on in my career, like I say, it was great for upskilling. One of the things that I did with that upskilling was I would attend some of the BCS lectures, for example, in an evening. I would kind of gain that knowledge in different technical areas, and then I would play that back to the IT team. So that was a great opportunity to develop some soft skills. At the time, as a graduate, I didn't really have the skills in terms of presenting or leading meetings, and it was an area I wanted to improve on. So being able to go to these tech events with the BCS and then come back, kind of absorb and distill that knowledge that I'd gained, and then play that back to the wider IT audience was great at developing my soft skills, and also recognition that I'd also learnt a lot from the event. But it was also an opportunity for me to kind of convert quite complex or technical subjects into more business focused as a more business focused topic, that the wider IT team could kind of take something from. And then more recently, I've kind of used it as more to bring thought leadership into the business. So, for example, earlier this year, I attended an event with the BCS where we were looking at some of the hot topics in the industry, and quite a few themes came out of that. Which I shared with our IT director, and he said that he'd been to an event recently as well and seen similar themes. So it was great that the industry was aligned on those themes. And then we looked at a couple of them to kind of see if there was anything we could do more on them to kind of bring benefit back into the business. So a couple of those themes we picked out, we had a brainstorm on them, and then that's actually led to me doing a deep dive into one of them with our chief people officer, pulling together a plan to do a workshop with the whole IT team to kind of get their thoughts on it. And in a month or so's time, I'm actually running a workshop with the whole IT team to kind of flesh that out and get their thoughts and opinions on it as well. And hopefully we can implement some good changes.
Oh, brilliant. So I think it's great to hear then that not only is it advancing your technical skills, but those softer skills that sometimes we forget about, how that enabled you to, I suppose, when you talk about owning a room and being able to deliver in meetings, it's giving you those skills, especially at that early age. And then obviously, being able to take back information to share with your IT director and giving you that platform. So brilliant. It's great to hear that that it has really impacted and supported you. One of the other things that I know that you hold from BCS is you have a CITP status, that's Chartered IT Professional. For our listeners that might not be familiar with this status, can you explain what CITP is?
Yeah, absolutely. So similar to, I guess, how engineers are chartered or medical professionals are registered, in those types of industries, you need to get chartered in order to progress in your career, or you need to be chartered in order to work on a certain level of design or to sign certain things off. CITP, or Chartered IT Professional status, is similar to that. So it's essentially the BCS as an external professional body assessing you and showing that you're technically competent. So it means that you're held to standards of ethics, for example, competence and accountability by that body.
Perfect. What I would ask is, what made you want to apply to get that status? Because not everybody has it within the IT industry. So what made you apply for it, and how has that helped your career so far?
Yeah, so I think much like the other industries, I think that in the future we'll see it becoming more relevant to IT. I think more people will need to become chartered, particularly decision makers. And I think with AI coming to the forefront a lot more and being part of board level discussions, we need to make sure that the right decision makers are competent to make decisions around things like AI, because that affects, the public and things like that. For me, the reason that I wanted to apply for it is I wanted to have that external stamp, if you like, that I am competent and good at my role. I think despite my age, for example, I wanted to have that external recognition that I was good at what I did, and that would also help my confidence. It's also led on to more things for me as well. So I was quite keen to get more involved with the BCS, and this was kind of a route into doing that. And in just a short time since I've been chartered, I've had the opportunity to write an article, for example, for the BCS IT Now magazine. On IT architecture. So that was really rewarding, kind of the magazine coming through the letterbox and seeing what I'd written in print. So that was great. I've also become a board member for the BCS Influence Board as well. So we help to shape the BCS strategy and support and engage on important policies and ensure that we're connecting with industry, education and government on these points as well. And then I've also been part of various social media campaigns to highlight how I got into tech and what being an IT architect is as well. So, like day in the life of type videos. And then off the back of getting chartered, I actually got put forward as the BCS nominee for the Karen Burt Women in Engineering Society Award as well. So it was great that the BCS recognised the work I'd done and kind of selected me out of, all the women that had been chartered in the last 12 months to put forward for that award.
Wow. So just it's that reinforcement, like you said, it helps with that confidence piece as well. And I think it really stamps you in the industry as that thought leader. Like you said, you've written an article, it's put into print, it's put on the website. It just backs up everything that you do and the journey that you're going on. For anyone that's listening in, for any women, for any men, for any folks that are listening in today, what advice would you give to anybody thinking of potentially applying for chartered status?
I think definitely look into it and apply for it. I think the BCS are great in terms of telling you exactly what kind of skills and competencies you need to get chartered. And the thing that I found quite useful from that journey was actually just the process of getting chartered helped kind of expand my knowledge and my skills. I was able to do a bit of a gap analysis, if you like, in terms of where I was currently and what I needed to do in order to become chartered. And that gave me some focused areas in terms of goals that I could work on to develop that I could then talk about in my chartered interview, for example. So the process itself really helped me develop and grow, which was great to then obviously lead on to getting that stamp of approval and get awarded that chartered status.
Perfect. Sounds like it was a real game changer. Like you said, it's that gap analysis, it's that self-development, self-improvement piece that you can do alongside what you're doing at work, which I'm sure you've got your personal development plans and everything else. So it sounds like a great opportunity for anybody that's thinking of going on that journey and what that might look like. If we're looking ahead now, what do you think's next for you in your tech journey or tech career?
So I'm keen to progress in my career, so take on additional responsibility and work to becoming more senior. I've actually got a couple of huge projects on at the moment at Matalan that I'm the lead architect for. So I'm super excited about that and want to ensure that I land these well and that I can contribute to the business success and growth as much as possible. So I think this is an exciting chapter for Matalan. So we're focused on, resetting the business and getting back to our value and our family first roots. So I'm really proud to be part of the team helping Matalan on that journey, and it's exciting to see the progress we've made already. And it's a plan that we've already started putting into action as well. So work's underway on key IT projects to deliver that I'm a part of. So improved electronic point of sale in store, for example, having an improved colleague and customer experience, and also a replenishment system as well to support the business. So really helping the business grow, and the impact that I kind of can have on that and the role that I play as part of that is really crucial. And also I want to continue to mentor others and support those around me and nurture those around me. Like I said earlier, I'm really thankful that I had a nurturing line manager when I first started in my tech career. And I think now, 9 years on, that's something that I do want to pay forward. And I'm really conscious when I'm mentoring people and, line managing people that are new to architecture, for example, that I can have a similar kind of attitude and a more nurturing way of doing things to kind of help them have the same setup that I had to kind of enable future success.
I love that. I love the fact that you had such an impactful start in your career with such a great line manager, that that's something that has enabled you to go to where you are now in your 9-year career and wanting to pay it forward. And I think that's the really big piece, isn't it? It's how do you pay it forward? How do you support that next generation that's coming through? And yeah, really exciting times for Matalan, and obviously super exciting times for your own personal career and where things are next. And you know, you was 30 under 30 at Drapers. I'm looking forward to see where Natasha's name is going to come up next in terms of future awards and achievements that are going to be down the line for you in the not too distant future. So as we wrap up, could you share your top 3 pieces of advice for women considering a career in tech or looking to advance in the field?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, first of all, for people that are perhaps looking to get into tech or perhaps move to a different area of tech, I think, research the vast amount of roles there are in IT. I think, even, when I go into universities, for example, people seem to be very aware of, project management, for example, and the role of a developer. But for me, they're kind of opposite ends of the spectrum. Project manager is one of the I guess, less technical roles that's available within IT, and a developer is one of the more technical roles. But actually, there's a whole host of roles in the middle, things like service management, cybersecurity, business analysis, and then like myself working in IT architecture, that I think people just don't have awareness of. So I think as an industry, we need to do more to kind of push that to people, push that information to people so that they are aware of those roles and what those roles entail. But equally, because of things like social media now or ChatGPT, for example, researching those roles is much easier. And I would definitely advise people to kind of have a research to see which role might suit them better. Because just because the roles you're aware of might not suit you, that doesn't mean that you should rule out a career in tech, because actually, as I say, there's a vast amount of roles, and I'm sure that one of them will definitely suit you. I think the other thing is think about the industry or the company that you want to work for. I think one of the things that attracted me to work in tech was that actually I was part of a business, and that I would participate in business meetings and be part of that business strategy and kind of influence that. So you need to do that for an industry or a company that you're passionate about. Um, I never thought I would be so passionate about retail as what I am now, but I am. Prior to working at Mashland, I've always worked in retail, so I guess it becomes second nature to me now. And that's what I enjoy. But whether it's working for a non-profit, whether it's working for healthcare, education, whatever that sector may be, it's really important it's something that you enjoy and that you're passionate about, because I think gone are the days where working in IT means you're sat in a basement and you're just helping the business, helping the business systems continue to work. We're now part of business transformation, we're now part of those strategy meetings, so it has to be something that you're passionate about. And then the final piece of advice that I would give to anybody, whether you're already established in your tech career or whether you're looking to get into it, is just say yes. And I think this comes from, my dad always saying to me when I was younger and at university, take the opportunity and never say never. And I think it's so important to say yes to things. I've found, especially recently, but throughout all my career, that opportunities typically lead to more opportunities. And sometimes when we get asked to do something, our initial thought might be no, because it's outside of our comfort zone. But if I reflect on when I first started working in tech, my comfort zone was really small, as I think it is for a lot of people. And actually, the only way that you're going to expand that comfort zone is by stepping outside of it. So when someone asks you to do something like speaking at an event, for example, that your initial instinct might be no, because that's outside of your comfort zone, don't be afraid to say yes and, do that, because the more that you do things like that, your comfort zone will stretch. And then the bigger your comfort zone becomes, the more things you're comfortable with, and then the more you can grow and develop. So I think it's really important to start saying yes to more things. And like I said, opportunities lead to opportunities, so it's kind of the snowball effect that you then get from that.
Love that. And I think that all 3 points were brilliant, but the last one, most of the women in tech events that I'm going to right now, and I'm talking to senior women that are in like high tech roles, their top piece of advice is always seize the opportunity, say yes to the opportunity, just give it a go, because you're being asked to do it for a reason. So actually, even though you might not think you can do it, someone's thinking you can because they're asking you. So I love that. So thank you very much for sharing those top 3 tips. So we are at the end of the episode now, and it's been great having you on board, and I've really enjoyed chatting to you, learning more about your background, your journey that you've had, and everything else. And I think, you know, for our listeners that are tuning in today and listening to this episode, I'm sure that they found it really insightful as well. And, you know, thank you very much to BCS who have sponsored this episode and also recommended you as someone for us to speak to, but also you're someone I'm aware of from being part of our community as well. So really appreciate your time today, Natasha, and thank you for being part of this podcast series.
No problem. Thank you very much.
Real.